Faces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Tuesday, October 6th. It's a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show. So if you have thoughts, use that hashtag, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can email us, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. You can join us on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Join the conversation in the chat room there. Lots of different things to get into. Tuesday shows can get kind of broad. We had a transfer window in Europe close yesterday. We'll get into a little bit of the recap. Any questions that came out of that for you guys, we'll hop into. We've got a busy week in Major League Soccer that will be kicking off tomorrow, and Atlanta United will be part of that, and we'll get into it. According to BetMGM, the match tomorrow with Orlando City is a complete and utter toss-up. Both teams at plus 160 on the MLSsoccer.com website. We will get into a game tonight, actually, Nashville and Minnesota, so we'll talk fantasy. We'll talk some juice boxes with that. And anything else that pops up, you never know. Gunnersaurus has reportedly been transferred to Sevilla. Reportedly, they announced it. I have not seen a statement from Gunnersaurus's representation on if he will be representing Sevilla going forward, but they announced it, so I'm just saying,
Forward Madison, they tried to put in a transfer bid as well.
Are you really surprised?
No, I'm just saying that they did, but apparently they lost out to Sevilla.
Are you really surprised that they didn't try to take advantage of an opportunity to get some buzz?
Zero.
Are they going to have a dinosaur-themed kit coming out later today?
That might happen. Guarantee you. That's probably closer to anything.
Do your thing, I guess. All right, let's get into kind of how things wrapped yesterday. So Barcelona, Manchester United stunk it up. Who won the transfer window? I mean, you got to take
Chelsea.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You got to take everything into account because it's not just what happened yesterday. Chelsea spent a lot of money. Have they won the transfer window? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, on paper, I guess. Paper doesn't win trophies necessarily. Sometimes cash does.
The games on paper.
But not always. Who else stood out to you in their business in the window?
Everton, obviously, bringing in James.
For nothing.
And then... Chelsea for me and Everton would be the top two in the Premier League, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. You're the Premier League snob. My bad.
Nothing
else. No. We're gonna have to fix that because you haven't said anything about Spain or Italy or anybody else or Germany. It's always the Premier League. The Prem. I'll tell you who won the transfer window, in my opinion. Real Madrid.
I was going to say the agents, yeah.
No, that's not what I said. Real Madrid.
No question. You get rid of Gareth Bale?
No, there is a question. They didn't bring in anybody. But they won the transfer window because they saved €200 million. And they didn't need to go out and spend a bunch. They had 37 players on their squad coming in. They got rid of a bunch of them. They made €111 million on B-team and academy sales.
Strong.
They saved €40 million from Gareth Bale and James's wages alone. They got $25 to $50 million in loan fees and salary cuts. When you're gonna lose €200 million in the next season without fans in the stands and everything else going on there, and you save €200 million in the transfer window, and you still have the best team in Spain,
you win.
Real Madrid won the transfer window.
They did.
They didn't need to go out and get a bunch of people. They didn't lose anybody they couldn't afford to lose. And now they're locked and loaded to go get Mbappe next year.
And just the more that I see stuff like Real Madrid, the more that I just shake my head at Ed Woodward buying the patchouli and the shiny popcorn right there at the checkout
Nah,
counter.
that's two different things. No. They're not in the same world because Ed Woodward's run the club so poorly to begin with. Ed Woodward had to go spend. No, he had to. He had to go buy something.
He did.
But that's what I'm saying, John. Like Real Madrid didn't have to spend because they've organized their team in a like a way that you would actually want to build a team. Ed Woodward has not built a team ever.
No.
They don't have a good enough roster, so they had to go spend. They didn't spend it properly. It's a different conversation. What Real Madrid did worked for Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea couldn't have done that because they didn't have a squad that could win the Premier League. Manchester United couldn't do that because they don't have a squad that can guarantee they get into the Champions League next year. Most other clubs that needed to spend or did spend couldn't afford to do what Real Madrid did. Real Madrid could do it because they cut the dead weight off the roster. And James and Gareth Bale were dead weight there. Now, is James helping Everton? Yes, duh. And Everton got a great deal. Gareth Bale, we'll see. He should be motivated to go back to Tottenham. He should be motivated to do well there. We'll see. He'll probably, whatever he does will be better than what he was doing at Real Madrid where he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So Real Madrid had the ability to do that, but that doesn't mean that other clubs should have. It's the sign of a well-run club.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid hasn't always been that either. They've done the Ed Woodward go buy whatever's available thing as well many times. But now they've got a coherent plan. Barcelona doesn't have one. Atletico Madrid really doesn't have one in some ways because what did they do? They went out and they got Luis Suarez.
Yeah.
All right, how long's he got? It's an aging squad. I think that's going to keep them around for a while. We'll see if they can finally incorporate Joao Felix into that team. But Real Madrid has managed their squad effectively, and now they're in position to go into the next window, not like a lot of teams that spend a lot now and will be coping with a big losses over the next season and then not be able to spend next summer. Real Madrid should be able to spend next summer, and the guy they want is reportedly somebody that is ready to go there in Kylian Mbappe. And you get Mbappe into that squad, they're not going anywhere. And Zinedine Zidane has proven that he knows what he's doing. And that club, the way they've run it, they know what they're doing. And they haven't put themselves in the position that a Barcelona has where they can't get deals done because they don't have any money. And they're $900 million in debt. Real Madrid is going to lose around 200 million euro this year. They saved 200 million euro in their transfer dealings. That's smart.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for me, the Real Madrid was addition by subtraction. And that's, for me, fantastic business, and especially in this landscape, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, them be able to do what they were able to do and continue to march forward the way that they are. I give them full and total credit, being the Prem snob on the show. But, yeah, I look at Barcelona, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and if I do, it's an oncoming train just because of how things are financially for them. I really don't. I think that it's going to be Real Madrid and everybody else, and Barcelona, for me, until further notice, is just going to be a mess.
No, you're not being fair in that regard because they'll be competitive this year while they still have Lionel Messi. Are they as good of a team as Real Madrid? No, but they have the best player in the world in Lionel Messi. They have an emerging star in Ansu Fati. They're good. They're not going to be garbage. That's a wild overstatement, but that future is scary because I don't see Messi there next season. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to be able to deal with, and they missed the opportunity to get anything out of Messi. They could have sold him in this window and tried to mitigate some of those losses a little bit. Yeah. They're not. Now they're going to have to deal with losing Messi on a free, more than likely, watching the best player leave, those guys that are boosted by Messi are going to have to do it on their own, and you're going to be relying, next season at Barca on Ricky Puig, Ansu Fati, Ousmane Dembele. I mean, that's going to be your attack going up against Real Madrid with all the talent that they have and being able to reload. And Atleti even, with a guy that you let walk in Luis Suarez. So this is Barca's last dance. This is it for them. And they better make it count, because I don't know what they're going to be after this. They'll compete this year. They'll absolutely compete this year. Messi still has the ability to put a team on his back. It's not as easy for him to do. He's going to have to get Ansu Fati playing at the same level he has been, and he's 17. He's going to have dips in his game. It happens. But Barcelona, it looks scary. Atleti, there were questions before the window about how, what's the long-term future there. I don't think they really necessarily have one. Nobody else is emerging in Spain. Real Madrid's going to turn into the Juve and Bayern and PSG in Spain after this season, I think.
Yeah.
England's a little different, with Chelsea spending a lot of money. We'll see if they can manage the squad. Liverpool being Liverpool, Manchester City being Manchester City. You've got three teams that are, on paper, the most talented in the world. Real Madrid's going to be that conversation, Bayern in that conversation, but you got three teams in one league that are among the most talented in the world. It's going to be down to the managers. I think you do, sorry, Domer, I know you're going to yell at me, but I think you have to give the edge to Klopp and Guardiola there until Lampard proves it. He's going to have the talent to do it, but can they compete this season? And is it just going to be one of those weird years? But they're young, too. So Chelsea, even if it doesn't happen for them this year, they're young. Manchester City, well, they've got flaws. Liverpool doesn't really have too many flaws. But that race is looking like the best one at the top of the table in Europe. I just don't know if there's another one that will be as competitive.
Yeah. For me, my hovering question over Chelsea is always going to be, can Frank Lampard manage all of this firepower? That is going to be my number one question where Chelsea is concerned. Yes, with all the talent they have, to me, they're a top three team. It is Liverpool, it is Manchester City, it should be Chelsea at number 3. But
so you're not even sold on them being number 3? Why?
Just because of Frank Lampard not being able to, can Frank Lampard, my overarching question with Chelsea not being number 3 would be Frank Lampard not being able to manage all of the talent.
Who would take the spot?
3 through 8, it's what? Chelsea, it's Spurs, it's Leicester, it's...
You think Leicester would beat out Chelsea?
No. I'm just saying 3 through 8.
But that's what I'm asking, is like, because you got to have somebody to knock them off. If you're saying that the question is 3, I don't think the question's 3 for them. If they don't finish third, it's a failure. The question is, can they be first or second? If they finish third, that's an absolute no. But it is in dispute. No, that's what I'm asking. If you're worried about Lampard getting third, there's got to be somebody that can knock them off. Is it Spurs? With what Mourinho has done there and what they've added,
That would be my leading contender, yeah.
Everton, with what they've done early on.
I've got another dash next
what
to
they've
them.
added. I don't think I'm putting Manchester United there. I'm definitely not putting Leicester there. I'm not putting Wolves there. I'm not putting anybody else there.
Yep.
If you're going to have somebody knock Chelsea out of third, which I think is a long shot, it's Spurs and it's Everton as an even longer shot.
Yes, right there with you.
And I don't think either one is as competitive as Chelsea. If that happens, it's a failure by Chelsea.
Agreed.
In my opinion. That's a different conversation. Can they get to first or second is what the conversation that they should be having is. And they have the talent to do so. Can they get there is where I'm at with it. If they fall out of third, things have really turned south for Chelsea. Swordsman with a question on the Twitch pitch. And Swordsman, I think you might be a newcomer to the Twitch pitch.
I think
welcome.
He is,
yes. Pep's on borrowed time. If he fails to win the Premier League or the Champions League, will he be sacked or will he leave on his own? I think he'd leave on his own.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to sack him. You got too many friendships there. And I know friendships, business, it's different. But Manchester City built their club to bring in Pep. They hired a lot of his friends and former coworkers from Barcelona. They're not going to sack him. Might they ask him to step away? Yeah. And I think they'll find a resolution because Pep's not somebody who wants to bring, problems to the club. If it doesn't go well this season, I think he walks. With the club's blessing, but I think he walks. I don't think he's fired. I don't think it turns into anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that if the ownership and the front office and they're not pleased with what happens this year, Pep does. It would be a Pep walking away. It would not be a Pep being sacked.
Domer asks, who's everyone's Premier League dark horse for this year? And since you're the Prem snob, who is it?
But is it Everton now? I mean, does that seem like a dark horse?
I mean, it seemed like a dark horse coming in, but just because we're, 4 games in and Everton's the darling, does that make them not a dark horse?
I mean, you're at what? 11% of the schedule, or pushing that.
You got 34 games left.
34. That's
38. You play 38. You've played 4.
Yeah. Okay, so 34 left. Okay. But, I mean, for me, I guess by process of elimination coming in, it would have been Everton. But dark horse.
The dark horse is Arsenal. The dark horse is Arsenal with the Partey signing.
Okay.
Because I don't think anybody had them as a challenger for the top 4 coming in.
Right.
Not realistically. And I think they've positioned themselves to potentially be that. I don't know if they get there. I've got a lot of respect for Arteta. I think the Partey signing is a really good one for them. And they feel like more of a dark horse at the moment than Everton because everybody's hyped up about Everton at the moment. We'll see if that holds. But that's been the shift since the beginning of the season when you look at the odds. I mean, Everton, depending on the bookmakers, are as high as the 4th favorite to win the league right now. That feels like a stretch 4 games in. Arsenal feels like the one that is being a little overlooked at the moment. Spurs is one that I feel like can compete too. I just don't really think of them as a dark horse. I mean, if we're going to play the game of the only real favorites are Liverpool and Manchester City, then everybody else is a dark horse. I'm kind of going a little bit deeper than that. Spurs, for me, are the favorites for 4th right now. After what's been done in the window, I would have had Manchester United coming into the season. No. I think Spurs have to be looked at as the favorite. Even as good as Everton has started, for me, Spurs are the ones that, on paper, talent-wise, manager-wise, should be 4th. Doesn't mean they will be, but they should be. That's the way I would bet it if I was putting money on it. So outside of that, will Everton maintain what they're doing? I don't think so. I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. Arsenal feels like the one that could build and grow as the year goes on to me. I think Arsenal could be the surprising one that goes to Champions League next year.
Yeah, checking those particular juice boxes, courtesy of our friends at Bet365, finishing top 4. So finishing in top 4, Arsenal is your number 5 team to finish in the top 4 at plus 187. Tottenham is at a plus 162. Chelsea is minus 200. But yeah, Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, all negative numbers. Then you get into Tottenham, Arsenal, Manchester United. Everton is number 7 at a plus 240 to finish in the top 4.
It's not the odd numbers they were showing on NBC Sports Network yesterday. So Everton had climbed way, way up higher than that. We'll see. Ricky Ricardo says this is a gap year for Pochettino. And, of course, Four Card says he's coming to Atlanta because Four Card's still driving that train. According to the Mirror, I believe, Ed Woodward or his people have reached out to Pochettino after the weekend. They're saying that Solskjaer will not be fired during the international break. If I was Pochettino, I wouldn't take that job. You're not being set up for success. The one thing that would be appealing about it, if you're a Mauricio Pochettino and Manchester United, is they are building a young core that is pretty good. Even with the Cavani signing that feels like a stopgap of a name to try to make it look like you're doing something. Even with the dumb pursuit of Jadon Sancho, I'll summer long. They did go out and get a couple of young players for the futures to a degree. Pelistri from Peñarol in Uruguay, and the player from Atalanta who's joining in January. Those are both good signings for the future, and you've got some other good young talent there. So if you're Pochettino and you feel like you can get some kind of assurance that you're going to be able to get the support to fix the problems, which are defensive more than anything, I don't know, maybe. But I just would not want to work with Ed Woodward. I would not trust that I'm going to have the resources to be competitive. Even with the young talent, Pochettino likes to build. He likes a group that he can mold. That's appealing. I don't know if he'd get enough support to fix the bigger problems there. So I think he would be interviewing Manchester United as much as they would be interviewing him about that vacancy. Outside of that, I don't know. I guess the only other one that could pop up would be PSG, because Thomas Tuchel has not been happy about PSG's business in the transfer market. Does he get frustrated and walk? I mean, there's always the possibility of Antonio Conte getting back into a war with Inter's leadership and walking. So both of those, I guess, are possible. But Manchester United's the one for Pochettino that there's been conversations before. Reports have them as reconnecting after the weekend's debacle for Manchester United. I just don't know if that's a slam dunk that he takes it.
But right now, for me, why would you want to work at Manchester United with Ed Woodward being the guy that you're going to have to be having any kind of conversation with about bringing players in?
You know the answer to that.
Because it's Manchester United.
It is. I mean, that's it. You would feel like I can come here and I can get this club back to its former glory. Any manager who thinks that they are, worthy of being in a big job is going to think that. It's the crown jewel. I mean, why did people go to Notre Dame for years and years and years when they were 8-4? Because it was Notre Dame. USC, same thing. Like some teams have that stature and they maintain it for a long time. Manchester United should not be where they are. Pochettino might feel like he can be the one to fix that. I'm not sure of that. And I like Pochettino a lot. I just don't know if he's going to get the resources to fix some of the problems.
I view Ed Woodward as like the number 1A roadblock to fixing things. And I mean, we know that Pochettino wants to do things in a certain way, and you would hope that he'd be left alone to do that and have the resources given to him to build in the way that he wants to build. That would be the thing for me.
Katie Weaver with a question. Why are you not in a hoodie and why are you in a hotel?
Okay. I'd like to be in a hoodie this morning, but I'm in a hotel in Thompson, Georgia, in McDuffie County, about 30 miles west of Augusta. I had to figure out my east and my west, considering I traveled on I-20.
If you were east of Augusta, you'd be in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's like I said. I was trying to think of it as I-20. It's like, all right, so I-20 is like this, and no. One of the other me's, Katie, when the show is over, I have to swap out my golf shirt. And for the work that I'm doing at Georgia Public, we're doing something at Thompson High School as soon as the show is over today for something that's going to air on Football Fridays. And so I drove out here last night, did soccer over there from the hotel room here. So when it's over today, I drive back, and we've got the run-up tonight. And so I'll be back in Office HD, maybe wearing a hoodie by then. So just out here for a shoot for Georgia Public, and should be back in Atlanta by late this afternoon, but thank you.
That was a long explanation. Okay.
Well, it's because it's just this different me's and,
different yous. It's not different yous. It's the same you. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. You just have different jobs.
That's what I'm saying. The SDH me is right now doing SDH. When this show is over, I take this golf shirt off, put another golf shirt on, go to the high school, do a shoot for television. When that's done, have lunch, turn around, come back. Oh, do you need me to pick up anything at the stores here in town on the way back in?
No.
Since I'll be out close to a Walmart and things like that.
No.
You don't need anything? Okay,
no.
Just checking. Figured since I'm out, if you needed anything, I'd go get it.
Does anyone know what's going on here?
No.
Morning, Bruce.
I have no idea what's going on. Swordsman says Solskjaer is a yes man to Woodward. This has been a theory that has been I think, an unfair one to Ole. I don't know. Maybe I just like Ole. I don't know. A lot of people have trashed him and said, well,
I want him to succeed so much. I really do.
Well, a lot of people are like, well, he can't say anything bad because he wouldn't be working anywhere major if he wasn't. That's harsh. I don't think that's fair. I think he's shown you that he can manage at this level. He's a club legend. Would Frank Lampard have got the job anywhere other than Chelsea at that level? No, he wouldn't have. Flat out. So why are we having the conversation? Well, Ole's so bad and he's awful and he's just got to, be a yes man. And I'm not saying the Swordsman. This is not just you saying. A bunch of people have said that. He's got to do this to keep his job because he couldn't work anywhere else. Well, Lampard was at Derby and didn't get them promoted, by the way. And he got the job at Chelsea because he's a Chelsea legend. Ole's a Manchester United legend. There's really only so much he can say. What good does it do when the manager goes to war with the owner or the chairman during a transfer window? It never really ends well.
I'm disappointed that the lack of resources we had. We didn't get anybody in the window. We sucked. My front office is awful. Yeah, that's really productive.
So Antonio Conte, trashes Inter's front office, and then he ends up staying. Thomas Tuchel's trashing PSG's office, and they're criticized for it. But now Ole doesn't do it, and somehow he's criticized for it.
Yeah.
The knives for Ole sometimes just don't make any sense to me. I think he did a good job to get them to fourth because I don't know if they were the fourth best team last year, to be perfectly honest. And they're not any better this year. You could say they're worse.
Yeah.
So, he's doing what he can do with that team. I don't know how much more can be done with it. We'll see about Lampard and Chelsea, but it's generally the same situation. Lampard's just got an owner who's spending a lot of money right now, and we'll see how he handles it.
Tafka says that he wouldn't touch Manchester United with a 10-foot pole if I were Pochettino. If I were him, take the right job or take no job at all right now.
That's what I would do. Manchester United would be a hard one to turn down because of who the club is, but you have to make the decision on if they are still that same club. And they're not right now. Can they be? Yeah, they absolutely can be because of the money that can come through that business. Absolutely, they can be better than they are. But are you going to be able to make them better than they are with Ed Woodward calling the shots? I don't think you are. I really don't. So we'll see. Let's see. J.W. Parker. Knives for Ole sounds like a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, it does. Or it sounds like an old country and western movie, kind of like Silverado, the sequel to Silverado, Knives for Ole.
Yeah, something like that. Clayton Poss with a thing to bring to the table that this was really weird as it was evolving last night. So Alexandru Mitrita.
Yes.
New York City FC. New York City announced yesterday that a bunch of their players were not going on international duty. Anton Tinnerholm with Sweden, Maxime Chanot with Luxembourg, Alexander Callens with Peru, not going. Why were they able to decline those? Because in New York, players or people who leave the area and come back from high-risk areas are told to self-quarantine. I don't know if it's 10 or 14 days there. But that gave them the out to decline those call-ups. Okay, well, they didn't decline one for Alexandru Mitrita. New York City FC, the club, and I don't know if this was tied to a person, Stephen Goff of the Washington Post reported it, they said that Mitrita could report to Romania because he also must attend to a personal matter at home. Well, what happens late in the day yesterday? The personal matter, I guess, turned into a loan to Al Ahly of Saudi Arabia with either an option or an obligation to buy. Wow, that's an interesting way to handle it.
It's a hell of an obligation at home.
Well, it is to attend to a personal matter at home. It's a personal matter about your future, career stop. But New York City fans are kind of furious, which I can't say I really blame them for the way this was handled. I don't know. It's a poor way of handling this. There's just no way around it. If you're gonna send him, send him. I mean, if the money's right, and maybe they can't do the transfer right now, but they're going to do it in January, and the money's right, and you've agreed to it, and it's where he wants to go, fine. That's what happened with Pity Martinez. It was a figure that was honestly one of the bigger transfers. It was the biggest out of, I think, this hemisphere completely from a player going to Europe. It was a good deal for Pity, where he got a big raise, according to reports. So there was none of this. There was no, well, like, he's just going on a visit. He'll be back at some point. Yeah, we gave him leave to go attend to a personal matter, and then he ends up with a briefcase in front of him with money or a jersey. No, it was, this is what's happened. Okay, we're going to make the move because it's good for everybody involved. I don't know how New York City thought this was the way to handle this. That's awful. That's awful, and that sends a bad message. I mean, just be up front. Just say that there's a possibility of a transfer and he's leaving. Or just don't say anything until you announce it. Like, don't do this thing where it's in a personal matter at home and then he leaves. That's craziness.
Yeah. I mean, deal with the other extremes here. Either don't say anything until the deal's final, or be upfront about it from the absolute beginning. Hey, there are folks who are interested in Alexander Matrica, and probably something's going to come down later today by the end of the transfer window. Instead of saying this particular story that you're putting out there, this plot line that you're putting out there, and then have this happen. So, no, that's bad form for me from NYCFC.
Yeah, it's a really poor way to handle it, and I am assuming that the Pigeons fans are not happy about this at all. I was looking to see if there was anything else. So in New York City's release about the players who were going on international duty or not going, they declined the Alexander Callens call-up. So they said no. They discussed Tinnerholm and Chanot, and the players were not released after discussion. So they didn't decline. They just technically weren't called up. Forward Alexander Matrica has joined the Romania national team for their upcoming games during the FIFA window from October 5 to October 14. The club allowed Matrica to travel to international duty to attend to a personal matter in addition to joining the national team. That was the release. Glenn Crooks had that yesterday, kind of early in the day. Then reports from journalists in Saudi Arabia reported that he was joining Al Ahly with a preference for purchase. And I don't know if that's an option or if that's an obligation or if it's a handshake deal. I don't know. But he's going. So New York City still hasn't commented. It's a weird one, and Clayton Paw says if they reported anything at all I see are the Saudi team reports. That's true. That's what's weird about it is no one from New York City, reporters or from the club that I can see, have reported anything. Anything that I'm seeing is sharing the reports out of Saudi Arabia and nothing new being added to it. So I don't know. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. And with Maxi Morales out, Matrica became very, very important, and they were talking about him playing a number 10, and he was going to be the replacement. And he's a designated player. He was a player that Ronnie Dyla, for whatever reason, had on the bench quite a bit. It's very, very strange. It's very, very strange. It just makes no sense.
16 goals, 41 appearances for NYCFC, 2 goals last weekend against Miami. And, so going all the way through all the other information with the search engines and things, all I'm seeing is Saudi Arabian material talking about Al Ahly and Matrica, and nothing from this side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, there's nothing on this side, which the longer there's nothing, it does make you wonder, is there something to this? Is it just the Saudi club trying to get a deal done? What is it? Questions from people to Roberto Abramovich, who covers the team in Spanish, Glenn Crooks, who covers the team in English on their radio network. Neither one has anything yet. Glenn said, have yet to confirm one way or the other. New York City has a press conference later today. Maybe they'll learn more there. So be on the lookout for NYC news. But very, very weird. Very, very weird. So more questions on the Twitch pitch. Swordsman says, what do you think of the 4 new signings for Manchester United? Panic buying. I like the young guys. I think that's the route they need to go. The Cavani one feels like a panic buy to me. Tejas is fine. I don't know if it really changes a whole lot. I mean, is he better than Luke Shaw? Maybe. Probably. But does it really make your defense better? That's okay. The Cavani one just feels like a shiny object. He was available on a free. I don't think that was your problem. And now you're going to play him over guys who have potentially played better and are younger, and you're going to be building around. This doesn't make any sense.
No.
Captain says, based on that Shaw tackle from Sunday, probably. That was just frustration and stupidity.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have heard what Ole had to say about that, because he looked like he wanted to go punt Luke Shaw off the field, because that was just stupid. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting window as we get ready for the leagues to come back, not this weekend, but next weekend. And in England, it comes back with Liverpool and Everton, which will be a wild, wild game to restart with.
Bart's in this morning, and he says, I'm disappointed that Barco wasn't sold during this window. For me, this was always supposed to be the window for him to go to Europe. It's fair to ask why he can't stay healthy or recover from injuries unless the club isn't telling us the whole story.
I don't think this was the window for him to go to Europe. I disagree with that. I think the window for him to go to Europe was always after this season. If it wasn't going to be before the season, it was going to be after the season for me. I thought maybe the weirdness of 2020 might have changed that narrative. And if there had been an offer, I think it would have. I think as we saw with Pity Martinez, if the offer was right, they would have sold. If the player felt it was right, if it was right for the club, they would have sold. The thing about him not being sold, not being a disappointment, there has been no talk about a move for Ezequiel Barco. And when I say no talk, I'm talking about from reporters. There's been nothing legitimate tied to anything. And I'm not talking about like heating up random speculation from people. I'm talking about real talk about this.
Yeah.
In weeks.
Yeah.
So the idea, and I don't know why it became a thing, and I don't know why it wasn't pushed back on. It was by the club, but nobody listened, I guess. I'm going back. I want to see when the last thing was when Sevilla was mentioned, because that was the last one. I'll go all the way back and see. So Barco and Sevilla, which had come up multiple times, Transfer Marked talked about the rumors on September 4th. That was when people talked about it, was the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th. It's October 6th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there was nothing else. There was no follow-up. There was nothing from Fiorentina after that. There was no other club. Lyon had been linked, back in the summer, early. That's it. So to make a sale, somebody's got to come in to buy.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence that anybody came in to buy with a number that was worth talking about, because it didn't get out into the media. I don't know. So I'm not surprised. When it got quiet, I'm definitely not surprised there wasn't a sale. Could the injuries be part of it? Yeah. That's why this whole idea that, he's trying to force a sale and let's make a telenovela about it didn't make any sense, because he's not helping it. So why would you do that? The conversation from the club has been consistently, he's day-to-day, he's come back into training, now he's stepped into modified training, he's come back into training, he's had to step back to modified training. He hasn't been able to train consistently 100% day after day after day. If you can't do that, you can't play. That's not any weird idea. If you can't train without feeling off the next day consistently, you can't play games. And, yeah, are they careful with him because he's a young asset? Absolutely. Is it something that could be a long-term issue? We don't know. And maybe they want to get a better grasp of it before they go into detail on his health, because he is a long-term asset. I don't know the situation with that. But he's been good enough to train, but not consistently. So that's where it is. And I don't know. So the thing about going this window, no, that quieted down a couple of weeks after these reports where there was no follow-up. It's the conversation about the injury and why and this and that. We don't have all the information. The club has been consistent in saying that they expect him to play a part this season. They expect him to be back very soon. He's not been able to train consistently, and that's where we're at. That's all I got. And I know there's people who don't like that. I know there's people who think that they should get more information than that. That's an opinion. I don't know what the injury is, so I can't tell you exactly, is it because they don't want it to be a target for the opposition? It's definitely a possibility if somebody has fouled as much as Barco. Beyond that, I don't know. But I didn't expect him to go in this window when the talk quieted down 2-3 weeks ago. The best time for him to go for the team would be in this upcoming January window. That's also the hardest time for a player to go. The best time for the value might be next summer. And that would be him getting healthy, him playing well, the team being in a better position to sell and preparing for a sale next summer, and then taking the best deal you can find for him and for the team. That might be the best time to do it because the money might not be there in January. But that's when the team would probably prefer to do it because then you're not losing somebody midseason.
And the last thing that you want to do is on multiple fronts. The last thing you want to do is push him back into playing before he is 100%. One, because that doesn't do you any good to have an athlete that you treasure at 100% being out there. And two, you want him to be completely and totally healthy as that asset that you're looking to have transferred later on. You don't want to have any other steps that would make that asset be worse off in the longer run. So no, you want him 100%. You want him ready to be out there. And honestly, I don't mind, and I don't want this to come across as selfish when I say it, but I don't mind not knowing about injuries, to be perfectly honest with you. That's the club's business, and I'm here to report what the club says. So that's how I'm wired. But where Barco is concerned, you want him at 100%. You don't want to rush him back. You don't want to make things worse, especially if you're wanting to have him go to Europe and play in the future. You don't want him to rush back.
No, you absolutely don't. Jason Nick says, what is MLS doing tweeting out sponsored tweets asking if Assad's tackle was red or yellow? I don't know. Go ahead. You've got an opinion, I guess.
No, it's just
No,
all right.
Say something.
Well, no, this goes back to what B. Wallace brought in this morning. Any news from the disco about the Assad tackle that should have been a red?
Well, they haven't posted anything about anything yet, so let's go through pieces here. All right, let's try to break this down. The tackle, let's put to the side on the decision. That should have been a red. It's not a red because the referee didn't give it a red. The VAR didn't at least get through to the referee to go look at it or anything else, so it wasn't a red. It should have been a red. The disciplinary committee should suspend Emil Assad. No question about it. That should happen. Don't know if it will. Don't know when they'll talk about it. Don't know if we'll get an update today, which we probably should because there's games tomorrow. We'll find out. The question from Nix is different. What is MLS doing tweeting out sponsored tweets asking if it's a red or a yellow? I don't know. I have a problem with this whole conversation about breaking down referee decisions and creating debate about it in this way because I don't think it helps the conversation about improving the level of refereeing. I don't think it does anything to grow the discourse because all it does is it tells you that every decision possible is a yes or no judgment call, period, whatever. Even when they agree, it turns it into a debate, and that's not what I think that's not what the league should be putting out there in that. I don't think there's any gain from it. I mean, I guess they sold it, but can they sell something better to that sponsor, give them something better to do with their money and time that would maybe be a better highlight for the league, instead of showing a tackle that in most leagues in the world is going to be a red card.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good look for the league. I definitely would not have promoted it or anything like that. I wouldn't tie a sponsor to it. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
That's a communication strategy that I'm not a fan of. The tackle itself should have been a red. There's just no way around it. I mean, it's a horrendous tackle. It's from behind. It's a scissor. There's no reason to make it. It's at the end of a game. It's cynical. I mean, it's for Yamil Assad to do that to a player from a team that treated him really well is a whole other element to it that I do not understand, and I would have even more of a problem with. We'll see if the Disco does anything about it. I have no way to guess what the Disco is going to do, because they should have suspended Nicolas Figal for multiple games, and they didn't even comment on it, and they didn't even want to, between Pro and MLS in that regard. That's a problem. So will they do anything about it? I don't know. They saw enough to fine John Gallagher for simulation or embellishment on a situation, so they're looking pretty hard at times. We'll see if they look pretty hard at this one. They've got a lot to deal with. The disciplinary committee, to explain it, will not have anything to do with the substitute situation that DC had. That is a league competition committee. It should be way above the disciplinary committee. It is also a pro issue with their fourth official. The disciplinary committee gets involved when Pro admits they made a mistake, and the disciplinary committee rules unanimously that there should be a suspension. And the suspension can only be one game, as we've seen with Franco Escobar, as we saw with Raul Ruiz-Diaz in the two similar situations. This should easily be one game, just no question, because it should have been a red card on the night. We'll see if they vote unanimously of it. It's 3 former players, a former coach, and a former referee. They have to vote unanimously, so you have to go 5-0 on the vote. We'll see if they do. They should. If they don't, that's another one where you're talking about a player safety issue with an Atlanta United player who is fouled, because both were called fouls, so I'm using the proper terminology, in ways that threatened their safety, a high risk of injury. And if neither one is punished by the disciplinary committee when we've seen them act in other things, then I've got a problem. The Franco Escobar one, not a player safety issue. You want to go with it should have been a red there? That's fine. The Raul Ruiz-Diaz one, which is similar, okay, that's fine. That no problem. You added a game to Romel Kyoto's red card that VAR did get involved in. That's good. The Figal one was pretty much the same thing, and you did nothing. If it's the second time that an Atlanta player's safety is at risk and the disciplinary committee doesn't do something about it, I don't know what to tell you about the ideas about how Atlanta doesn't get any calls or Atlanta doesn't get protection from referees or the disciplinary committee. I can't defend it. There's no way to defend it if they do this again. Yamil Assad should be suspended, no question. We'll see if the disciplinary committee does something. There's a game tonight. It's not involving Atlanta or D.C., and Atlanta doesn't really have any involvement, but D.C. plays tomorrow at 8 o'clock. There should be an announcement before they play that Yamil Assad is suspended. There's a whole bunch of games tomorrow. The disciplinary committee should be ruling on anything from the weekend today. We'll see if they do.
Can we go back to the sponsored element for a second?
Sure.
If I'm an official in this league and I see something like that, I would feel, I mean, it's
if you're a referee,
like question.
If you're a referee in the league, remember you don't work for the league.
Right.
You don't.
But
the referees don't work for the league.
Right.
That's important. But it's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL. It's not like Major League Baseball where they work for the league. The league goes out and hires them.
Right.
They don't work for the league. That's an important point here, I think.
Yeah. But just in general, when you see something like that pop up, even though you're not an employee of the league, when you see a sponsored element like that, it would make me uncomfortable that an element of the league that I work with is doing something like that where you might be questioning one of my calls in a sponsored element.
that call should be questioned. The sponsored element part I don't like. And where they manufacture things I don't like. They could.
Yeah, I'm putting the call aside for a second. I'm just putting the call itself aside. I'm just talking specifically about the sponsored element aspect of it.
Yeah, I think they could do better with the sponsored element for sure. And MLS has got enough problems with the level of the referees, and it's not all on MLS. That's on U.S. Soccer as well. That's USL has these issues as well. Any professional league in the United States has issues because the level's improved a lot and the referees haven't. The referees need more support to improve. That's all. Those are all real things, and I don't have a problem saying that. The referees have a very hard job. But my issues with them are about player safety and about the quality of play. And This one has nothing to do with quality of play because the game's over. It's done. 4-0 game at the time. It was in stoppage time. Didn't matter. It's a simple, easy player safety issue in this call that they didn't get right. Brooks Lennon could have been injured in the situation. You can't allow those tackles to not be punished severely. Just like persistent infringement can't be allowed over and over and over again to break up the play and affect the quality of games. These are things that the referees in this league, in this country, have to get better at. Again, it's a whole country thing. It's not just the MLS. Using a sponsored element to point out these shortcomings that do affect the quality of the league is not really a good use of a sponsored element, in my opinion. Yeah, and they need to do better with that.
And that's what I was getting. That's what I was kind of getting at. It's like, can't you do like other things instead of focusing on something like that?
Well, no, they absolutely could. They put it on that because I guess it gets engagement because it just makes people angry, and that's the problem. Is that's not good engagement.
Yeah.
Put it to best passes of the weekend. Put it to best dribbles of the weekend. Put it to best tackles defensively of the weekend. Put it to something positive instead of something negative, and let's do that and grow the league and grow a better relationship with the sponsor. That would be much, much better.
Yes.
And it's nothing to do. The league's not doing it to figure out what to do on this. The league's doing this just for engagement.
Yeah.
And I don't think negative engagement is a good strategy. That's just me. I think that's fleeting. I don't think that helps you in the long term. You want positive engagement. You want long-lasting engagement. People yelling at your account for disputing something that they disagree with or whatever. And in this case, I think both of them said it should have been a red card. But in, where you have one person saying, no, it shouldn't be a red card, one person saying, yeah, it should be a red card. And then the response is the engagement is people just yelling about it one way or another.
Right.
Does that actually help anything? I don't think so. I think they can do much, much better with it. Katie Weaver asked about Brendan Aronson. Is anything further on it? No. The sporting director at Red Bull Salzburg said that it was something for the next window. So I'm assuming it'll come down in January or after the MLS season. Doesn't really matter. By all accounts, it's done. If they were going to do it now, they just would have loaned him back to Philadelphia. So, I mean, you're just not loaning him. You're just going to buy him at the end of the season. There's probably some kind of a paper agreement on that will then come into effect when Philadelphia's season is over. So, no concrete reporting on that, but it's all but done. It's been reported that it's all but done pretty consistently. I don't think there was anything that stopped it. Colonel's fired up about Swansea. So you're going to have to dig into this, John, because I don't know exactly what's going on with it. Swansea City principal majority owner Steve Kaplan is off the board of directors. One of the architects of the mess at DC United is on the board of directors. These and other changes have the trust miffed. Reorganization is hard. Pandemic related, ? Could be. Changes were all filed in Delaware 2 weeks ago and just now coming to light. Sam Porter is not good news. Kaplan's still the majority owner. All kinds of madness.
Wales Online.
Okay.
Co-majority shareholder Steve Kaplan no longer with the club. New chief exec Julian Winter, Gareth Davies, Sam Porter, and Jake Silverstein are now directors. The Swans Trust states it has no issues with the appointments of Winter and Davies as directors. However, they deemed it inappropriate that Silverstein has earned a place on the club's board. The trust also calls for clarity, say that 10 times fast, calls for clarity on why Kaplan has stood down from his position as director.
Yeah, you would think there'd normally be some kind of statement about that.
Yeah, on Silverstein, the trust commented, as we've previously communicated, the trust views it as inappropriate that Jake Silverstein, who's not invested in our club but has simply loaned money in the form of a convertible loan, has been appointed as a director. The trust has had no discussions with Jake Silverstein and has no visibility in terms of what his interests in our football club are.
Okay.
As the fans representative within the ownership of our club, I'm dealing with pop-up windows, sorry. As the fans representative within the ownership of our club, this is not the best start in seeking to convince the fans you are here to act as a suitable custodian for the club. And on Kaplan, the Swans Trust wrote, on the issue of the resignation of Steve Kaplan, despite our requests, we've been provided with no information as to why he resigned on whether this represents a change in the ownership structure of Swansea Football LLC. As a company filed in Delaware, we have no visibility on the ownership structure of that company. The appointment of Sam Porter, a longtime legal rep of the majority owners, would seem to suggest there is no change and that Steve Kaplan, despite this change, very much remains the key decision maker among majority owners.
So he's the key decision maker, but he's no longer the chairman?
Apparently so.
That's not normally how it works.
Nope.
Okay, good times. Uncle No Pocket says, I think fans have reached a breaking point with Barco. I'm on the side of being a little patient with him, but he's been missing a lot of matches. That's fine. I don't think he's missing matches because he's going out to a party. I don't think he's missing matches because he doesn't want to play. He's had injury issues. Look, I've argued this. I had the conversation with Doug on Southern Fried Soccer. I feel like the same thing that Pity Martinez was criticized for and has been judged negatively in his performances for Atlanta United is just now all on Barco. He doesn't score enough goals. He doesn't have enough assists. It's all about those numbers, and I don't think that's a true judge of who he is as a player. He's not going to be here long term. That's number one. I think he is going to be sold in the next couple of windows. I don't know which one. If he is here at the end of next season, I would be very surprised. We have to go back in time here a little bit to go back to when he was brought in. This was a player who was champion with Copa Sudamericana with Independiente. Player who was breaking into the Argentine youth national teams. A player who was in demand. Atlanta United got the deal done, even after Independiente tried to flex and wanted more money out of it. They got it done. He comes in. Had an injury at the end of that first preseason. Then made his debut. Yes, he had an off-the-field issue in 2018. It's a long time ago now. I don't know if that still colors people's opinion of him. If it does, I don't think it's fair. Tata Martino suspended him, kept him out for a while. Then that team was on their way to trying to win Supporters' Shield, and then in the postseason, he became the first option off the bench. That was the role he played. He did it well. He was 18, 19. It's not completely abnormal. The next year comes in, starts off the season really, really well, has a great match in New England, has a great match in Kansas City, leaves to go to the U20 World Cup with Argentina, plays very, very well. Lots of talk and hype about Barco. Comes back, first game back with the team, he gets kicked in the inside of the knee, the inside of the leg, not on the outside, the inside. Kicked and injured for most of the rest of the season. He was not right the rest of the way in 2019. There's nothing he can do about that. There's nothing he can do. This season, it's been stop-start. It has. He started out well again, and then you had the pandemic. Then he wasn't 100% going into Florida. I don't know what happened there. And he hasn't really been 100% consistently since. And that's where you're at. You want more from him, but also he was a player brought in to grow and be sold. He's grown. To what level is that sale going to be? Now it's changed, and that's the thing that I can already see it coming. if he gets sold for $23 million. Well, we invested all this, and that's not enough. Well, the pandemic. I thought, and this is my consistency about it, and we'll never know, I thought $30 million is what he would end up getting. I thought he would be the biggest sale coming out of MLS. And that was where my head was after the U20 World Cup. And it didn't change because of the injury last season. $30 million was the number for me. If somebody had come in with $30 million ahead of the season, I think they probably would have taken it. I thought that was the ultimate goal for him. Now it's different. And I don't know what that number is going to be. And that's the hardest thing about it, is I don't know what the magic number is anymore. But I thought 30 was where he could get to. We'll see what it is now. You'd like to make a profit on the deal. That's going to be hard because, yes, the injuries have probably hurt his value a little bit, along with just the fact that clubs are very risk-averse right now in their purchases. If there's concern about an injury, well, then that's going to be an issue. So you're going to have to find the right club and the right time. But all that being said, I think the speculation on the other side has been very unfair to him. The speculation that he doesn't want to play or he's trying to force something or whatever, there's nothing to go on that. It doesn't make sense when you really start to think about it. That's where my frustration has been. And Uncle, you're not in that category. I'm just saying in general when it's, oh, well, now we don't like him because he doesn't want to play. Well, why do you say that? Well, do you have any real information? No, you don't. You're just starting something? Okay, fine. And when that started to become more of a thing, that's not cool to me at all because there's nothing to go on. He's not helping his value by not playing. He's not becoming a better player by not playing. I don't know. I don't get the end game for it. So when I start judging conspiracy theories, it's like, well, let's go logically here. What gain there would be from doing this action? There's not one in this case to me. He's not going to get a bigger contract somewhere by not playing right now. He's not going to get a bigger chunk of a transfer fee by not playing right now. He's not becoming a better player by not playing right now. None of that's helping his marketability, just for him. If the decision is his, none of that's helping. The team wouldn't sit an asset right now because you're not tanking for anything. There's no gain to it. His value doesn't go up. Same things that we said on his end. Nothing's getting better for the team by him not playing. So I understand the frustration about the injury history. Completely valid. But the conspiracy theories about it don't make sense. There's no logical benefit to it being a conspiracy. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing it, but I don't get it. Okay, let's get caught up on the Twitch pitch with more stuff. We'll get back into Twitter in a minute. Actually, before we do that, why don't you tell us about settle down? Tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinski over in Decatur, GA.
I could certainly do that. Apolinski & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. Wrongful death and serious injury attorneys. If this is a conversation that you need to have, you can have it with Steve and all of the attorneys at Apolinski & Associates, LLC. A couple different ways that you can do it. If you want to talk to Steve, you can do it directly, STEVE, at aa-legal.com. You can go on to their website, aa-legal.com. You hit enter, you hit return, you hit the arrow key, depending on the device that you use, large or small. And a pop-up window pops up because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365. You can have a conversation with a person at the other end of that line and have questions answered that way. Or you can get a free consultation by giving them a buzz at 404-377-9191, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine. Top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters. It is Apolinski & Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
I think you disappointed some of the listeners.
How's that?
When you were dealing with pop-up windows,
yeah,
you didn't talk about your line about pop-up windows.
I did. I said that's what pop-up windows do.
No, in this one you did, but when you were dealing with them with Swansea, you didn't. You missed your opportunity.
I did miss an opportunity.
That's a big miss, John.
Because I was trying to focus through the pop-up windows on walesonline.co.uk so I could actually read the Swans Trust, wondering, what are your intentions, sir? That's the big thing there. 21% owners, and we ain't heard nothing, so that's why folks are mad.
I mean, it fell into your lap. You could have taken it.
True. Well, but it is early. Remember yesterday when we were talking about Queensboro FC and David Villa?
Yeah.
They released a video. Their crest is out. That's what all the hubbub was yesterday. So they have now released the promotional video for their crest.
Okay. And what do you think?
It's purple.
That's bad?
No, I'm inquisitive. I can't quite tell the color. It's
you
not
don't know
quite,
what color.
It's not quite pink, and it's not quite purple. So it kind of falls in between.
Pink and purple are very different.
No, but it's not like an electric pink, and it's not quite like a deep purple. It's kind of somewhere in between. How would you call it? Would you call that purple?
Electric pink and purple. They're very different. I mean, it's fuchsia.
Fuchsia, thank you. Okay, that was okay. Because I was trying to think of what the in-between was. So fuchsia.
I think it's fuchsia. Tell me if I'm wrong, people. I think it's fuchsia. I like it. That's a really good crest.
So at some point, I'll probably end up getting the T-shirt and or the hat.
Why? You don't even know what color it is.
Well, hey, I dig the Q and I dig the Queen's crown. So, and besides, it's a new partner in USL Championship, so I will add it to my stacks probably. And don't be surprised if it's in Festivus bags either.
Okay. Looks like they are hinting that they will be wearing the fuchsia and either, I guess, black maybe stripes. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, it looks good. That's a really good crest. That's one of the best ones I've seen in a while, for sure. Tafka, don't give John ideas. Don't give John ideas because he's going to do that one day, and I'm going to blame you.
Oh, what?
You'll figure it out later. Lennon and Gallagher made the MLS Team of the Week. Good stuff. I don't know if that's... I know it's John Gallagher's first time. I don't know if that's Brooks Lennon's first time on the MLS Team of the Week. It might not be. Question from Captain Ragamuffin to try to drive me insane. Who is the Barco replacement going to be?
Hashtag Barco replacement. Get that right, Ragamuffin.
No, he had it right. I just left the hashtag out because I was reading it. Ragamuffin. I'm going to have nightmares about that one. Four-card asks, how much does he have left on his contract? And that's a good question. I want to say it was announced as a 5-year deal at the time, or at least reported as a 5-year deal. So if that's the case, it would have been 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And that would make sense. I think they've generally talked about their signings of these kinds of players, these young players, as 5-year deals. So he's not out of contract. You're not going to worry about him walking on a free. You're going to make a move before that happens. It could be 5 with an option as well. So that you'll handle that right because this club's been pretty smart about that stuff.
Tafka, I'm right there with you. I think that doing the Pat Summerall version of the promo and leave off the .com and just kind of wait for. Remember the whole murder she wrote with him and John Madden? I see where you're going, Tafka. I like that a lot.
No. What's on Twitter?
Let's see. Bart telling me that it's purple.
It's purple? I think it's fuchsia.
So I'll go with that.
I disagree, Bart.
Yeah, because like I said, it wasn't like what we think of pink, and it's not like what we think of purple. That's why I was trying to come up with the in-between, and fuchsia to me is an in-between.
Well, you didn't know what color it was, first off.
No, I said it wasn't quite pink, and it wasn't quite purple. So what is it? And then you said fuchsia, and I'm like, oh, that works.
Did they issue a release and talk about it? Because usually they do, and they explain every element of the logo, and they'd explain the color, but I don't think they did. It
just came out with the video release. Maybe they're coming up with the written word in a little while.
That's disappointing. Burned on the Twitch pitch. Yes, and it has turned into colors down here, 4-card. That's accurate.
Yes.
Going back to Barco/transfer fees, it's weird to see fans' fascination with Arthur doubling his money. Who cares? I want to have the strongest team on the field. If the owner doesn't double his money but we win a cup, that'd be better, no? Most clubs don't double their money on transfer fees. You'll still make money if you sell it about the amortized part of the transfer fee. I don't think there's an obsession about the doubling the money. That was just where the number I thought was headed. not so much in terms of, it's got to be double. So I get what you're saying, but I haven't really heard that too much. I do expect, because I've heard people say it about Pitti, like, that's not a big enough amount to sell him for. Well, yeah, it was. When you look at the market, it absolutely was. And the player wanted it because he was going to make a lot more money in salary. So that factored in as well. When it comes down to Barco, I think 30 was what you could have gotten before the pandemic. I don't know if you can get that now. I do think when you start to look at the business of MLS, you want to make enough to where you can add $1 million of allocation money to your cap. And I don't know what that magic number is for Barco, because there's been some different reports. Our friend Gustavo had some information out of South America, out of Independiente's fan base. Got it, Bernd. We're cool. There's been a lot of talk on the Independiente side that it had to be over a certain amount of a transfer sale for them to get their 10%. That had not been reported previously, I don't think. So I don't know what the sell-on fees are. I don't know where the transfer fee breaks out. So I couldn't do the math on the equation of it has to be X amount to get $1 million in allocation money. That's one thing that's unique to MLS that is a very important element to me. And I think it's something that's been left out of this a lot when you talk about bringing players in and selling them for a profit, is you can increase your cap. Basically, you're adding allocation money. It used to be $750,000, now it's up to $1 million. You need to do that. It helps you build a better team. It's an important element. So whatever that number is, that's what it should be. That's the minimum. If you make more and you make more cash, that's great. That's a wonderful thing for the ownership. It's a wonderful thing for the club. Everybody wins. But you have to make the amount, preferably, and I think the younger the player, the more likely you want to hit this, of being able to do that. I don't know if they made enough on Pitti to do that. Pitti was an older player. This was kind of a special offer that came up for Pitti, and you take it. I don't know if they made enough to do that. But for Barco, I think you want to make enough to be able to do that. We had that conversation about, who was it yesterday? I cannot remember who the conversation was that Tudor Rockman was discussing. Hold on, and I will tell you, because it was an important thing. Tutul Rockman on Twitter, Tutul is my name, Tutul, went into this conversation about Brian Rodriguez. There we go. The Brian Rodriguez offer was 10.5 in euros, $500,000 loan, $10 million purchase obligation if he played in 75% of games. That would not have netted them enough to make the profit to put it into allocation money. That would be very low to me. I think Barco will get more than that kind of offer, but I don't know how much, and it's just hard to guess now. If you get 25, 23, I don't know. But somebody's got to come with money, first off, and I don't think anybody did. That's the biggest thing, is there was not any major conversation about it anywhere after the Sevilla rumor, so I think it's a safe assumption that there wasn't a opportunity to sell right now. But adding that allocation money to the cap, that's the important thing, and I just don't know where the math is on that for Barco's potential sale.
A couple of folks are on Twitter had some quick game thoughts about the match coming up against Orlando City, but we do have our color update from Queensboro FC.
Good. What is it?
The color palette of the crest is centered upon one of the most iconic colors of NYC's subway system, QBFC Purple. Shared by the 7 train connecting Queens to Manhattan, complementary colors include dark and light gray, evoking the urban landscape of New York City.
That looks like fuchsia to me.
The crown above the logo type represents the Queensboro Bridge. The bold and athletic logo type is a custom typeface called QBFC Plaza, based on the historical topography at Queensboro Plaza. The shield around the Q, and what they've done is every Q is in purple in this release. The shield connotes the ideals of inclusion and protection and is a reference to royalty and tradition. The top supporting edges of the shield represent the community. The centerpiece Q symbolizes the borough's namesake and origin as the central icon of the crest, the heart of which stands for the diversity of Queens. So that is your Queensboro FC update.
Bernd was going into it on the Twitch pitch from a financial fair play perspective with a Barco sale and how it looks. I'm going to leave that to the side for a second and go through the Brian Rodriguez math breakdown, just so you kind of know to a much deeper degree than probably any of you ever wanted to know how this stuff can look. So what Tootle worked out was that $16.8 million was the magic number for a Brian Rodriguez transfer to get $1 million in GAM. If you sell for 16.8, that's what you have coming in. The agent / player, whatever percentage they get off of the transfer, that comes off the top. Tootle says it's 10% in the Rodriguez situation. Okay. I don't know if that's true or not. I'll take his word. That takes the net to 15.1 if you sell for 16.8.
Right.
Whatever the sell-on fee is comes next. Peñarol's getting 30% of a sell-on. So that would be 4.5 in this magic number equation. Independiente, in terms of Barco, was reported at 10%, but there could be a certain amount that it has to be over to get that. I would assume if you're going to get into the ballpark of getting $1 million in GAM, Independiente would hit that level. So 10% would go next after the agent or player cut. Then that takes you down to what's left. That's the MLS club, the MLS and the club cut of it. Then you take the salary above the young designated player or the designated player designation off next. That gets you back to what you have left. Then you take the original transfer fee off next, and in Barco's it was reported around $15 million. That comes off of it next. That gets you down to profit. Then MLS gets a cut of the profit. Then you can convert if you have a certain amount left over. If you have $1 million, you can convert that to GAM. That's your math. That's a lot of math. For Barco, what we know, we don't know what the agent player cut of the transfer would be that would come off the top. Independiente is not getting more than 10%. We do know that. Salary, you'd have to go back and do the math of the amount that he has been paid above the young designated player, because that's what he has been termed. That's what he's been paid by the league. So whatever has been paid above that, that comes off next. Then the original transfer fee comes off. If there's profit, you can convert up to $1 million to GAM. That's the way it works. It's complicated, and that does affect the decisions here. Is it 100% the only driving factor? I don't think it is for Atlanta. I think for some clubs it could be more of a driving factor because they have less to work with. But that's the way it works. And I know Bernd and Captain are going into more of the financial fair play element of it, which doesn't really apply from the Atlanta perspective, from the cap side of it. You're not really getting into if the transfer fee was spread over the life of the contract. That's about the cap hit in MLS and just about how it's paid. You don't get a discount if you haven't paid all of it yet, that kind of stuff. So it's all over the map. Burns says the MLS rule about getting GAM for making a profit is just an arbitrary league rule, I guess, to incentivize selling, which shouldn't need to be incentivized. It does. It is to incentivize it, absolutely. Yes, it's nice to get GAM, but it shouldn't drive your decisions if you are a wealthy owner. And that's where we're at the end of the day. For some clubs, yes, they're going to have to sell to get this, or they're going to say, you know what, it's better to have the player here. Atlanta going to be in a different situation with Barco because he wants to go. They're going to sell. They want to sell to get the GAM because that helps you make a better team. It is a strategic element. So I think I don't think you can undersell it, but if you can't, in Barco's case especially, where he wants a move at some point, not saying right now, don't start conspiracy theories. When that happens, he's going to want to go. So are you going to say no because you need an extra $1 million to get the GAM? If you can't get it, you can't get it. You're going to try, and you should try because it can make your team better, but I don't think you're going to stand in the way of that move. Where if it is a smaller move and an owner that has less to work with, then we're having a different conversation. So I hope that makes sense. It's not an obsession over a certain amount of money that you have to get here. I just don't think there's an offer yet.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been an offer that's met whatever level of expectation you're trying to get to.
Yeah, and you don't want to stand in the way of a player who wants to go to the European theater. You don't want to do that, A, for the player, B, for the agent, because that odds are that agent represents more than just that one particular player. C, for your own reputation in the world market. You don't want to get that reputation of sitting there saying, "Oh, okay, well they'll bring in talented players, but they don't want to let them go."
Right.
You don't want to have that rep, especially if you want to continue to be a player in the world market. You don't want that reputation. So teams that could be interested in your player don't want to deal with you, and then that hamstrings you when it comes to wanting to deal and make larger deals. You just don't want to have that kind of a reputation of standing in the way on multiple fronts.
No, 100%. And Mile High on the Twitch pitch echoes that. Getting large transfer fees also is an easy selling point, and getting other young designated player level players to come here before Europe. The salary will help as well. I mean, you're getting a bump in salary to come here. It's, I think now when you're seeing it happen more and more, it's a valuable move for young South American players who don't go directly to Europe. A player like Pelistri, who went to Manchester United from Peñarol, you could have a conversation that he would have been better off to come here first.
Yeah.
You absolutely could. Because how much is he going to play at Manchester United? Are they going to loan him out? They're saying he's going to come in and be a first-team member of the squad, and is he? Is he going to play? Would he come here and start immediately and benefit from more playing time? We'll see how it works out because, look, the conversation is going to be different if Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi do go from Uruguay. And Rodriguez is the prime example here because he came to LAFC from Peñarol. If he goes to LAFC, doesn't really light it up, but does okay, gets into the Uruguayan national team, does well, and then gets a move to Serie A for more money ultimately than Pelistri got and Peñarol got from Manchester United, you're going to see clubs sell more to MLS. That comparison is going to be really interesting to watch over the next 6 to 12 months. I think Rodriguez is going to be sold by LAFC for more than Pelistri was purchased by Manchester United to Peñarol. That's going to change the paradigm for Uruguayan clubs and for Peñarol specifically because they're going to say, look, let's sell to MLS. We'll have that sell-on fee. We're going to make more money ultimately by them going to MLS. The player is going to say, well, look, he went and played and didn't just sit the bench or get loaned out to a lesser team. I want to go to MLS.
Yep.
The Brian Rodriguez versus Pelistri move could be really fascinating for the long-term growth of the league. I'll be curious to see how it plays out. But Rodriguez has got to get more than a 10 million euro offer because that does not prove it. You got to get more than that. You got to get into the 15 to 20 range. He's got to play better to get there too. Great goal from him on the weekend, and that showed it. And he's got to perform for Uruguay at the national team level. Let's get into MLS and what's coming up. So we've got a match tonight. Nashville hosting Minnesota. Nashville's a pretty decent home favorite in this one, according to BetMGM.
Yep, and in our composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, Nashville is a plus 131, Minnesota United a plus 206, and your draw is a plus 240 for the 8:30 kick.
That's a little surprising. Although Minnesota has been very up and down. They're 2-2-2 in their last 6. Nashville's only lost once in their last 6, but they've only won twice. They've drawn 3 times, so it's not a dramatic difference between the two. I don't believe Yonder Cadiz will be available for Nashville just yet. I think this weekend is what the target is for him to join the group. They're missing David Accam. They're missing Dominic Badji. They're missing Daniel Rios. They're missing Anibal Godoy. They're missing a lot. I mean, you're looking at a lineup that, I mean, they've been playing Derek Jones up top. Mm-hmm. He's a 8. He's a central midfielder. LaGrassa could be in the lineup, according to the projected one at MLSsoccer.com. He's a USL Championship player, moved up with them. Minnesota comes in. We know Tyler Miller's out. We know Ike Opara is out. We know Luis Amarilla is out. Ozzy Alonso is questionable. Chase Gasper is suspended. Jan Gregush is on international duty. Joseph Dickerson, who'd had the Atlanta-DC game, is the referee for this one. Minnesota is the stronger team coming into it with all those absences for Nashville. Nashville's been a tough team to break down, but all those absences make me think Minnesota goes in and gets a win.
Yeah, I was thinking draw just because of game day travel and all that kind of stuff. So I was torn between goalless and 1-1 just because of the lack of firepower that Nashville has coming into this match, but I was leaning toward a draw.
So for fantasy purposes, if you want a Minnesota or Nashville player, you have to add them now to your team before the game tonight. I did. I added 2. So we'll get into the full teams tomorrow. I went for Joe Willis, and I think I'm going to stick with that. He's been pretty good as of late in terms of his point totals because Nashville's not giving up a ton of goals. I also went for Roman Metzner because he's a defender who likes to get forward a good bit, and he was at a decent price point. So those are the 2 that I added from these 2 teams. Do you have anybody from these 2 teams?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I laid out from those particular ones, and I was looking in different directions. So those were 2 teams that I did not have as a part of my discussion.
All right. So if you're going to add any Nashville or Minnesota players, you need to do it now before the game tonight because you can't add them later. Nashville plays Sporting Kansas City on the weekend. Minnesota plays at Dallas on the weekend. Both of those are on the road. Nashville's at Sporting.
Heading into yesterday, I did have Alexander Matricha.
Well, it's a good thing you paid attention and you dropped him.
Yeah, I did.
Because he's on international duty anyway, so it wouldn't have even mattered. You look at your international guys, and I know it's difficult this time around because not everybody who was called up is going. Double check all of that with your fantasy teams right now because Grey Goose is gone. Rusnak is gone. There are guys who are away on international duty. Pedro Galese away on international duty for Orlando. Double check those before your fantasy team posts because everybody is missing players either due to injury or international duty right now. So double check. Make sure you got your teams set. Nashville, Minnesota, 8:30 tonight. It's on ESPN Plus unless you're in the Nashville or Minnesota markets to watch that on your local broadcasts.
Yep. Galese and Mendez are international call-ups for Orlando. Mike released the greatest hits from the game notes. Out for Orlando, Akindelli, Dwyer, Moutinho, Mauricio Pereira, Uri Rosell with Galese and Mendez as international call-ups. Out for Atlanta, Joseph, Kubo Torres, and Mateus Husechu. Brian Rowe expected to start in goal tomorrow. MLS is also listing Miles Robinson as one caution away from a suspension heading into tomorrow's match. Rubiel Vasquez is your center ref. Soren Stoichka is your VAR.
I like Vasquez. He's one of my favorites in the league, so feel good about that one, that's for sure. What else do we have on Twitter?
A couple of quick notes about the match itself, and I know that we've got the run-up tonight coming up at 7 o'clock. Bart says, I'll say this again. Saturday's result was, in parenthesis, really great, but Atlanta United needs to follow it up with a positive result this match week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's every game now because you only get 3 points. You get that 3 points. It's already in the bucket. So you got to go and follow it up because you got to climb. You got to climb in the table. So you can't settle. It was a good result against a bad team. You played well, which is the important thing in the win here over a bad team. You didn't, back into it. It wasn't a lucky win against a bad team. You played well. Okay. You got to play better against Orlando. Now they're going to be missing pieces. You got to take advantage. That's going to mean with Mendez out, it'll probably be Pereira in the midfield. That's still a really good midfield. Junior Urso played really well against Atlanta last time around at Mercedes-Benz. Still a really good midfield. Goalkeeper, Galese is outstanding. Brian Rowe is not bad. He was the starter last season. He wasn't the major problem. So, yeah, they're not going to be at full strength, but they're still a very, very good team that has not lost in 9, I believe. I think they've won 4 of their last 5. Top team. In this one, it's a different conversation. Beating DC, you want to play well in that game to feel good about it. Beating Orlando, you want to beat Orlando. You don't care. If you do back into a win against Orlando, you will absolutely take 3 points against Orlando because not many people are getting 3 points against Orlando this season. So whatever it takes, you're going to go find it. But you got to build on what happened on Saturday. You found some things that worked well. Hosetu is out. That's a change. Barco is not listed as out, so is he going to be able to play a part? Jürgen Damm did play a part. That's important. Miles Robinson played a part, didn't finish it. So how's he feeling coming out of it? Those are important elements because we don't know exactly what this Atlanta lineup is going to be. And the amount of games in a short period of time, Stephen Glass has got a lot of juggling to do between putting the best team on the field that he can put out game after game and also not having players get injured for longer absences. That's a really tough balancing act right now as you're trying to accumulate as many points as you can.
Nathan Pugh's in this morning. He says he has his tickets for the 2 Atlanta matches. I will proudly, freely, and without fear attend and cheer for my team once the whistle blows. # Tuesday Thoughts.
Do your thing. I mean, that's it. I don't have that's great. I don't have a problem when people say they don't want to go right now either. No problem with that. Everybody's in a different situation. Everybody leads a different life. You got to do what's right for you and the people around you. That's what's important about this. If you can go and you can manage your space, if you are not worried about putting somebody at risk who is close to you, and I'm not saying you don't care about them. I'm saying you can manage everything the way you want and you don't have somebody who would be at a greater risk. Great. Go and enjoy it. If you worry about any of those things, don't go and be worried. It's up to anybody to make that decision, and there's not a wrong answer in it to me. It's not. So figure that out for yourself and do what works for you. But if you go, wear a mask. If you go, don't take your mask off unless you're going to eat or drink something, and do it while you're eating or drinking. Put your mask back on. Follow the guidelines. Follow the instructions. Do the right thing if you're going to go. But if you can go and be safe and enjoy it, go do that. And if you can't, it's on TV, it's on radio, you can enjoy it at home. There's not a right or a wrong answer here to me at all. The wrong answer would be if you go and you don't follow the protocols. That's the wrong answer that could happen. And hopefully nobody who's listening would do that.
Breaking news sounder, please.
All righty then.
Okay, you have 2 names over your left shoulder.
I don't think anything happened with Tevin Campbell.
Correct. From at Mesut Özil 1088, 5 minutes ago.
Is that his real account?
Yes.
Okay.
Blue check mark and everything.
All right, just checking.
From Mesut Özil, quote, I was so sad that Jerry Key, a.k.a. our famous and loyal mascot at Gunnersaurus, an integral part of our club, was being made redundant after 27 years. As such, I'm offering to reimburse at Arsenal with the full salary of our big green guy as long as I will be an Arsenal player.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
And the jokes have already started that is Mesut Ozil's most meaningful output since he's been in an Arsenal jersey.
Well, that might be true, but that's still very cool. It is a little spicy, as Ryan Katney says, just a little bit. But that's very nice to do that for somebody who was going to lose their job. So hopefully Arsenal takes him up on that because there's no reason why they shouldn't.
Can they get him back from Sevilla?
Probably. I don't think he's been registered.
Just checking.
Yeah.
But yeah, saw that come across 5 minutes ago, and I was like, yes, that was very, very cool. So that's the moment of cool for the day so far for me.
Yes. Anything else on Twitter?
Efforting since I was doing other things. So
what else were you doing?
I was checking on Mesut Özil on another device.
How many devices you got going there, John?
I have the phone, and I've got the computer, and the TV is not up and running. Oh, and Bart is telling me to catch us up on Twitter. Bart is telling me that it's purple at Queensboro FC.
I thought you already said that, and you said it was purple.
Yeah, well, he's just reinforcing it. He says that's purple, John.
Okay, but we already said that.
Yeah.
You already said that Bart said that.
Yeah, I did.
So he said it again?
No, I thought I did. I thought I had not said that. Bart said that it was purple.
Yeah, he said it was purple, and I was questionable about it. And then you said that they said it was purple, so I guess it's purple. It just looks more fuchsia to me.
All right, so then I guess it's purple, and I've already talked about Bart, so we're caught up on Twitter.
I'm confused. I didn't know if Bart was just randomly tweeting. It's purple. John, it's purple.
It's breaking news again, please.
Good grief. You don't have to wait for the echo. Go ahead.
Well, I had to wait for the story to pop up in full. The New York Red Bulls have announced Gerhard Struber, head coach. The club announced today. Struber comes to New York after a 13-year playing career, various roles in youth development and head coaching roles at FC Liefering, Barnsley FC, and Wolfsberger FC. As part of the negotiations, Red Bulls paid an undisclosed fee to Barnsley FC to release Struber from his existing contract. He will join the Red Bulls and assume head coaching duties pending receipt of his U.S. work visa. Quote from head of sport Kevin Thelwell, quote, Gerhard is a bright coach, and we're very pleased to welcome him to the club. Gerhard's playing style and experience in youth development align with our philosophy, and above all, as a person, he fits into our culture. We look forward to him getting here and working together to achieve the goals we have set as a club. End first paragraph. Everything continues after that.
This is not a surprise. We've talked about it for a while now. Not a manager who spent a whole lot of time in the Red Bull organization. Barnsley, on their side of it, tweeted out that he has left Barnsley to take up the vacant head coach position at MLS outfit New York Red Bulls. Whilst the club are extremely disappointed to be losing Struber, the New York Red Bulls have met a significant contractual release clause after several European clubs expressed interest. Gerhard's close ties to the Red Bull family made the decision for him in the end. Barnsley said they wanted to, or their executive officer, Dane Murphy, who previously was in that role for DC United, said, I must start by thanking Gerhard for the last 11 months. Tasked with maintaining the club's championship status, he took a difficult position at Oakwell last November. Despite the 7-point deficit and COVID-19, his belief never wavered, and the night at Brentford will live long in the memory of all supporters. Did the announcement that Wigan was having a point deduction live long in the memory of all supporters? Probably should, because that was the important one. They couldn't deny it because the buyout clause was met, et cetera, et cetera. They'll be replacing him. They'll keep people updated. No big surprise there. So I wanted to see if there was any other comments from the European side here. Eddie Howe's actually being rumored to be the new head coach at Barnsley.
Well, they're 21st in the championship right now. In 4 matches, they've only scored 1 goal, and they are 1 point out of the relegation zone right now.
I don't believe they signed anybody during the window either. Struber, after the loss at Middlesbrough on the weekend, said, I have other ambitions, aims, and I cannot feel that the owners have the same ambition and goals like me. Yeah, that was somebody who was on the way out. And this had been reported for weeks, so this is not new here. People said he did a good job at Barnsley keeping them up. Nigel Pearson and Hans Wolf are also linked with replacing him at Barnsley. I was looking to see what people thought of. They played a 4-4-2 diamond at Barnsley, according to James Knowlton, who is a good source, World Football writer, writes for World Soccer, Morning Star, Guardian, etc. So 2019-20 under Barnsley, the average positions of the team, when you look at it, it's a diamond. I mean, it's a pretty structured diamond. Your 2 up top are tucked together. It played like a diamond. Your outside back stepped up a little bit higher. So New York has worked with a 4-2-2-2 this season. That's the preferred setup for Red Bull. It's not a definite, but Red Bull as a global organization, that's where they've tried to work from. A 4-4-2 diamond, that's an easy adjustment, or you just play the diamond. I think you can make that work as well. be curious to see what changes he makes to the way that team plays. That's the curious one about this one. I don't know. I mean, he's got a history with the Red Bull organization, so he'll be comfortable working for them. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if it'll be successful or not. We'll just have to wait and see. It's an interesting one.
And Tafka. So let me recap our two breaking news elements here, because apparently Tafka's phone rang and he missed our first breaking news sounder. Apparently the phone ringing interrupts his stream.
Yes, because he's probably listening on his phone. That would make sense.
So if he was listening on his phone and the phone ringing interrupted, the first breaking news sounder was that Mesut Ozil is going to pay the salary of Jerry Key, a.k.a. Gunnersaurus. As long as Mesut Ozil is on Arsenal under contract, he's going to pay the salary of Gunnersaurus. So that was your first breaking news sounder.
Yeah, it wasn't really that big of a deal. He didn't miss much, Tafka. No offense.
But he wanted to know what it was, so.
No offense, Gunnersaurus. Probably could have just tweeted him that one. Jason Nix on the Twitch pitch says, I saw a funny on the Twitters basically saying that Atlanta got rid of all quality South American players that would get called up to international duty in order to make hay during international breaks. 10-dimensional chess. Yeah, sure, whatever. That's fine. I missed that one. That's a good one. Hutcho just says, give me 3 points. Give me 3 points, mister. Just talking about Orlando. Ragamuffin asked if anyone's come up with a song for Marcelino yet. Have not heard one yet, although he is bringing forward My Sharona as a potential solution.
Barcelona. Got it.
Marcelino. My Sharona.
Yeah.
You might be able to make that work. Domer lets everybody know that the flag crew in the supporter section will be sparse the rest of the year, so all the put your flag down people can save your breath. Okay, cool. Shiva, about tomorrow, I will be happy with a draw tomorrow if we can. Possible no designated players with a very good Orlando team. Shiva won't be with us tomorrow. She is giving her prediction of a 1-1 draw with an Emerson Heineman goal. I'll take that. If I can walk in and take a point out of that game, I will take it. I absolutely will. And that's not saying that Atlanta's no good. That's saying Orlando is very good. And if you can get a point with we don't know about Barco. He might be there, might not be. With no Marcelino Moreno yet. With just the absences that you've had. You get a point out of that, I take it. I take it and move on. Orlando's that good. It's different. The expectations have to be adjusted. This is not the old James O'Connor, Jason Kreis, Adrian Heath, Orlando teams. It's a real legit Eastern Conference top team right now. They're that good. Four Card says, hey, them missing players is a them problem. We've been missing players all season.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes.
It's a weird year with Orlando being this good, but this is where you're at. It's going to take a good performance. It's going to take an organized performance. I think it will take what we didn't need to see against DC, what we did see against Dallas, a team that has the counter press on. You're going to have to break up the way Orlando plays a little bit. You're going to have to make things difficult for them. I'll be curious to see what kind of lineup they field. Lineups right now, game to game, totally unpredictable because of all the wear and tear, because of all the managing of minutes, because you're playing again on the weekend. Is Pereira going to be in it for Orlando? Is Dike going to continue to play up top? Is Nani going to play? We've seen Nani rested quite a bit. Is he going to miss this one? Is he going to play this one? Mueller's played a lot of minutes. Does he need a break? You've got all these questions with lineups that we're all guessing because, we've been talking about it from an Atlanta perspective, but other teams have these battles too. Minor injuries that keep people out for a game, managing workload. It's tough. So, this could be a mostly full-strength Orlando team tomorrow. It could be a very rotated Orlando team tomorrow. There's really no way to know until the lineup sheet comes out.
Yeah, and I'm getting my questions prepared for the run-up tonight at 7 o'clock in addition to what we're talking about right now. So it'll be good to preview this one tonight and then again previewing it tomorrow with the guests that we'll bring on with Mike and Doug hopping on as they always do on Wednesday. So 7 o'clock for the run-up. No, by the way, thank you to everyone who has responded on Twitter over the last, 12 hours or so after you posted the announcement after us clearing a certain number of
Just say it.
It's 1 million.
I know. Just say it. You don't have to play the silly games. We crossed 1 million downloads since our time on Spreaker. It's very cool.
Yeah, and just thanks to everybody who reached out and has been a part of this. And so all of you guys who've been listening this entire time, just as much a part of us as clearing 1 million, but it was really cool to see everybody reach out to us after that announcement came out yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. It was pretty cool to cross that one. So we'll see when we cross 2 million. Who knows? It took on Spreaker almost 2 years to get to 1 million, just over 1,000 episodes in total. That doesn't include the time on Blog Talk Radio, which I don't think got to 1 million from the beginning of 17 to September or so of 18, but I'd say probably got over 500,000. So
yeah,
we'll do a total and figure out what that is. But yeah, it's very, very cool. It's just you guys have told people about us. Y'all listen on a regular basis. You interact and. It's been really cool to keep us going and keep us doing this at a time when the pandemic hit, I didn't know if we'd do a daily show because I didn't know if we'd have stuff to talk about. And one of the main reasons we continued to find stuff to talk about was so many of you reaching out saying that it was just part of the routine and it helped you guys feel like things were somewhat normal or could get back to normal, and that was honestly why I started digging into every possible thing to find to talk about because we wanted to keep doing it. So thanks to everybody who's talking in the Twitch pitch about it. You guys are the ones who hit that number. So we just put the episodes out. We could be talking into the void for all we know, but you guys are downloading it. You guys are telling your friends about it. You guys are spreading the word, and that's why we're able to do what we do.
Speaking of spreading the word, how are we on scarves?
We got about 15 left. They're going fast. They'll be gone by the end of the weekend, I would think. So if you no forecard, you are not the void. If you want a Marcelino scarf, no, you're not. Not all the time, anyway. If you want a Marcelino scarf, you better get it now if you haven't already gotten yours. $25. Send us a message. We'll get you taken care of. You'll pay via PayPal to our Gmail account. Let us know your address so we can send it to you. And if he plays on Saturday, it'd be very cool if you guys take pictures with the scarves and hold them up wherever you're watching from and spread the word. He will find out about it. He's going to get a scarf. So he will know what you guys have done for his first club. And that'll be a cool way to welcome him since you guys can't be in the building on Saturday. And hopefully it'll give him a good, warm feeling about Atlanta day one, his first match.
Update on Struber, just so everybody knows. He's leaving after 10.5 months at Barnsley. Now, Barnsley is also setting to start their search for their 5th head coach in less than 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, you're a bad championship team. That's not a surprise.
You really should be in League One, but you got very, very lucky last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, Wickham is not looking very good either. They haven't scored a goal in their first 4 matches in the championship, and they have a goal difference of -10, 0 points.
Well, they just got promoted. I mean, why is that a surprise?
I would have thought maybe at least some offense would have been a part of things, but it has been a rough start for Wickham, going 0 for 4 and 0 for 10 when it comes to being outscored.
It's not a surprise. I mean, I think it's hard anyway for a League One or a League Two team to move up, but when you do it during a year where you don't have revenue, you can't upgrade. So, I mean, you're in a lower division for a reason. You got promoted, but you're not able to actually do much with getting promoted right now. So you are what you are, and that's who Wickham is. I mean, that's what's really difficult about all this. There were reports yesterday that the Scottish government is figuring out a bailout for all of the clubs. England has not figured that out yet. There has been conversations between the Premier League and the EFL, and those will continue. Nothing has been decided as of yet. The teams in the Championship are not looked at as fondly by the Premier League teams as the teams in lower divisions. They're competing to take somebody's spot in the Premier League, so you can't leave that to the side. The Championship teams also are very bad in their financial numbers versus how much they're spending on their roster versus how much they're bringing in. And this is pre-pandemic. So they are being run poorly for the most part, not everybody. And the Premier League teams are reluctant to bail them out of bad decisions pre-pandemic. I somewhat understand that, but I don't think you're going to be able to pick and choose. And we'll see what the Premier League does. If the Premier League doesn't do enough or doesn't do anything, we'll see what the government does. And they're going to have to do something. And this is going to happen across the continent. It's going to happen across the world because this isn't going away. A couple of things along those lines. So Serie A had the Genoa match postponed this weekend, had the farce of the Juventus and Napoli situation. To recap it real quickly, the local health authority for Napoli would not allow the club to leave Naples after two players tested positive after playing Genoa, who had an outbreak the previous weekend. Serie A refused to postpone the match. They said that the local health authority for Naples had failed to take into account the health protocol that had been agreed between the government and the football authorities, which they said superseded the local health authority. The local health authority obviously disagreed. The agreement is that even if players tested positive, the rest of the squad can continue training as long as they test negative, which is pretty typical. That's what leagues here are doing. That's what leagues in most parts of the world are doing. So then you had the embarrassing situation with Juventus and acting like you were going to have a game when you weren't going to have a game. The sports minister, Vincenzo Spadafora, said on Monday that there's not a risk of the Serie A season having problems because of this, that they're going to get the season done, all the normal things you would say. They're also looking at 500 million euro or so of losses, and that's a serious concern. If they don't play, it's going to get even worse because then you're going to add more sponsor elements in that have to be refunded and broadcast stuff that has to be refunded. They can't afford to do that, so they have to find a way to play. That's why they're putting pressure on teams to play, even if the local health authorities are saying you can't travel. This is going to continue. This is going to continue. It's not going to go away. And then you have situations like what we saw with MLS teams and quarantine situations, what we've heard from other leagues and clubs not wanting to release players who would be going into a quarantine and missing time. We also have Xherdan Shaqiri of Liverpool and of Switzerland. He tested positive for COVID-19. That was announced this morning. First time he had been with the national team in over a year. So he arrived at the team hotel on Monday afternoon, tested positive. He will be in isolation during his time with the Swiss national team. You had the situation in England with Tammy Abraham, Ben Chilwell, Jadon Sancho, and the newspaper we don't talk about showing Chilwell and Sancho attending a party in London on Saturday for Tammy Abraham's 23rd birthday. That broke the government's rule of 6, which is banning people in England from mixing in groups of more than 6. So you have players being stupid. You have players who are testing positive with national teams. You will have more. We're waiting on updates out of South America. Those games are on Thursday. I would assume you're going to have positives when people arrive. It's just the odds. I mean, that's just what it looks like it'll happen. So all of that combined with league play, combined with not getting people back in the stands across Europe yet, and we'll see what it looks like country to country. It's going to be a challenge, and the government in the UK is going to have to bail out the smaller clubs. There's just no way around it. That's probably going to have to happen in other countries too. Nick told us about small clubs in Italy are struggling. I mean, it's across the board. So this stuff isn't going to go away, and it's just where the game is in the world right now. These national team matches are going to be really interesting to see how everything shakes out.
Yeah, you mentioned bailouts. The Daily Mail, the Premier League is offering a grant of less than £50 million to bail out struggling lower league clubs, despite the EFL claiming they need £250 million to cover losses caused by the pandemic. And they're offering, according to the Times, there's a combination of financials being suggested by the Premier League, where it would be loans and $50 million offer from the Premier League in conjunction with another sum of about $100 million is a loan with interest rates similar to those charged by banks. So that's where the Premier League is right now.
That's probably not good. So the Premier League is not offering a solidarity payment. They're offering a loan with probably not a great interest rate.
Yeah, so the EFL is saying we need 250 million pounds. Premier League is saying we'll give you 50 and then a loan for another 100.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Also, this morning, Serie A was meeting about bids on private equity funds to take a stake in its broadcast, its media business. We've talked about this pretty much all summer with different organizations putting a lot of money on the table for a share of the broadcast business for Serie A. Well, Serie A's president, Paolo Dalpino, has tested positive for COVID-19 ahead of the meeting. So that's going to complicate things a little bit, and this is where you're at. One other bit of news this morning, Danny Welbeck, he got out of his contract with Watford, and Welbeck and Wilshire are now free agents.
And apparently Wilshire's hometown club, which is in the 7th tier of English football, has invited him to come and play.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's kind of silly. That's where we're at. So you've got national team matches kicking off this week. You've got friendlies tomorrow. You have Tata Martino's Mexico against Frank de Boer's Netherlands tomorrow afternoon, ESPN2. You've got New York Red Bulls with a new manager. He won't be there on Saturday. There were some questions as the rumors continued to build in previous weeks how quickly he would be in place. I don't think he'll get his P1 visa that quickly, but I don't know, maybe so. Won't be there on Saturday for the Atlanta match. Hopefully Marcelino Moreno will be able to play then, and he should be if you do the math on the 10-day quarantine, isolation period, whatever, because we know he's training individually here in Atlanta. But you got a match before that. You got a match tomorrow against Orlando, and that will be available on 92.9 The Game, on Fox Sports South. We'll have the run-up tonight to get deeper into that. So your questions, your tactical questions, your deep dive questions about Atlanta, Orlando, Kelly and John will be here for you tonight, 7 o'clock on twitch.tv/soccer down here, on the app, on the website, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. We'll be back in the morning for the normal show to get you ready. Mike Conti, Doug Robertson will join us in the morning to get ready for Atlanta and Orlando. The games keep on coming. They're not going to slow down. And we're not going to slow down because we're along for the ride too. So we'll see you in the morning. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Mucha platiel.
Mucha platiel.